Welcome back to Dead Good Book Reviews. I'm Judith and you are watching a reading vlog here on the channel. I haven't done a vlog since my Age of Madness vlog, but this is going to be a multi-book vlog and I'm excited for it. Hello! This is the follow-up to my spooky TBR video, which at the point that I'm filming this, I haven't edited yet and it's due up in 2 days. Life is fine. I'm perfectly coping with the change that having a dog has brought to our lives. I didn't cry today, everything's good. If you haven't watched that video, I'll put a link to it somewhere, but the gist of it is I picked 8 spooky books. I'm going to try and read 2 of them a week. Today is Tuesday, the 5th of October, and so by Thursday of this week I want to have read S.T. Gibson's Dowry of Blood, which by the time you're watching it, the review video for this should have gone up, and also Small Favours by Erin A. Craig. These are my 2 things. We may be about to be joined by a dog. These 2 things are what I'm planning on reading. I'm going to start with Dowry of Blood because that review is due up on Monday, and I also haven't finished it. This is a reread. This is about Dracula's wives. Excited about it. This is more of like a creepy horror extravaganza, fairy tale, Rumpelstiltskin. I'm pretty sure. I'm probably going to check in when I'm done with Dowry of Blood rather than checking in halfway through, just because I've already talked about this on the channel before and I would like to read it. Hello! Let me just show you where she's decided to go. Look at that. I'll check in at the end of Dowry of Blood. I'll probably do a couple of check-ins for Small Favours. Not sure how it's going to go. And then we'll be on to the next set of books. This might be a long one, so buckle up and get ready for this October reading vlog. We are on the much less aesthetic side of my office because I thought that maybe somebody would like to be featured. You can also see the fact that there's socks under my desk. It's fine. Let's not worry about it too much. Focus on the cute one. I finished Dowry of Blood, a Dowry of Blood, as I probably should have said. This is just beautiful. Like, I read it before and I knew I liked it, and then I read it again, and just some of the sentences are just absolutely stunning. Like, it's very lyrical. It's very, I'm gonna say flowery, because I think if you take that in a positive sense, if that's something you really like, if you really like flowery prose, then this is great for you. And if that's a negative thing for you, then you'll know if you're not going to like this. If that's like a real no-no. I think of all the flowery prose I've read, this is one where I think it works. I think it's partly the kind of gothicness of it and the timelessness of it. And I appreciate that talking about gothic and then adding timeless, and you get what I mean. It's that kind of feeling to the whole book, so it makes sense. It doesn't just feel like it's there for the sake of being there. We have this narrator who is very, very old. Constanta is ancient and timeless, and yeah, I really appreciate it. I really love the story. I really love the triumph of it. It's a really harrowing read in a lot of ways, and I think the way that it portrays an abusive relationship is really powerful. Even though it's a supernatural abusive relationship, it's still very much like, in hindsight, I can totally see the warning signs, and here is all the stuff, and you can see how things are a problem reading it, and how everything's being disguised as love when really it isn't, and it's quite difficult in a lot of ways. I think especially if you've had an experience like that, it can be a bit difficult. Obviously, I've never been in dating an immortal, to my knowledge. I don't think so, but there's a lot to take from this book, I think, and it's just beautiful. I had a really good time. And then I am 3 chapters in. I've just reached the start of chapter 4 of Small Favours. I'm really liking the atmosphere of it. Again, it's obviously this kind of small settlement in America, I believe, but I don't actually know what time period it's meant to be, and I don't think it's told me. Yeah, I'm not absolutely certain, and that's something that does slightly bother me. Let me just double check that the start doesn't have like a we're in 18 doo-dee-doo. I'm not sure, and they've mentioned high-rise cities being like another place, so obviously there are high-rises, so I'm just figuring out the time period, but I think other than that, it's fine. I think as soon as there's a mention of like where technology is at, I'll understand, but obviously this is a small rural community, so I don't know if we're going to get that. It's just a pet peeve of mine. I like to know what year I'm in, unless it's a fantasy novel, in which case I just need to know like what level of industry are we at, and honestly, I would take that. Other than that, like the isolation these people are living in, the small town nature of it, the everyone knows everyone, I'm starting to see some of those things creeping through. I think we're just about to hit the kind of scarier parts of it. This is split into 4 sections. Yeah, autumn, which is interesting given that I believe it's set in America, but you know, sure, go off. Winter, and then spring. So I will probably try and read up to the end of autumn, and then come back to do the second half afterwards. I think that's the plan anyway. This one is resting. I need to get back to work. I shall speak to you next time I speak to you. Hi, day 2, 3. It's Thursday. I am... How many pages through am I? I am 219 pages through Small Favours. I'm up to winter. Yep, we done summer and autumn. and we're at winter. I'm loving this so far. Oh, so yeah, Rumpelstiltskin is the inspiration for the story. And I think knowing that is a very different experience, because I'm just spending every moment being like, stop making deals with people. Nobody make any deals with anyone. Stop this. There have been some truly like, oh gosh, no moments in this story so far. I won't spoil anything, but just me sat there going, this is, how could anyone do this? No, this is terrible. And just feeling terribly sorry for the characters and everything. This is so good so far. I think that now that we're at this bit, we're going to get to like the actually very, very creepy parts, which, given that this has already been quite creepy. So my prediction is that winter is going to be like, here's all of the creepiness, and then spring will be, we're fixing that / everything's getting much, much, much worse. That's my prediction, but I will come back and tell you all about that when I've read it. And now I'm going to show you Luna because she's just too precious. Look at that face. Hello! I don't even know what day it is anymore. It's Tuesday of the week after whenever my last clip was made. Life is very busy at the moment. I know I used to say that in every single vlog, but right now it is really feeling that way. And I wasn't really wanting to make this vlog clip, but I'm going to, because I want to take something off my to-do list, and one of the things on my to-do list is to update you on how I'm doing. I have started Certain Dark Things by Silvia Moreno Garcia, and I am 74 or so pages through this book. It's not particularly long, it's quite small font, so I'm struggling a little bit. My eyes are not what they used to be, but progress has been made, and I am very much enjoying this so far. As you all know, if you've been watching for a while, I really enjoy Silvia Moreno Garcia's writing. I really like the way she crafts a setting. We're in Mexico City in this. We've been doing the thing that I enjoyed in Velvet Was the Night, where we're getting lots of different people's environments, which I find really interesting. Not much else plot-wise has happened yet, but I think it's going to come in the next few pages or so. So I need to keep going with this, and I'm very excited for it. I was kind of hoping it would be gayer than I think it's going to be, but that's by the by. These are my expectations. And when that's done, I will pick up Dark Descent of Elizabeth Frankenstein, but that's not yet. And I've got like 3 other things I need to read this week. Oh boy, it's manic and busy, but I think I will check in when I've finished Certain Dark Things, which may be in a couple of days. Hopefully it'll be in a couple of days, or I'm very behind. I'll speak to you then. Hello! It is Thursday, the 14th of October. We're nearly halfway through the month. I'm nearly halfway through this TBR. It's pretty nice going. I finished Certain Dark Things yesterday, and then I messaged Angela all of my thoughts on it, because she happened to be reading it at the same time. How lovely, how nice. What are my thoughts? I'm gonna put this in my ranking of Silvia Moreno Garcia books that I have read. So I'm ignoring the beautiful ones, because I read it, but I read it many, many years ago, and I can't really remember anything about it. So we're gonna leave that out of the equation. But I think that my least favourite, still enjoyed it, but least favourite is Gods of Jade and Shadow. Then it is this, Certain Dark Things, chunk right in there. Then it is Velvet Was the Night, which I read very recently, and then top tier is Mexican Gothic. So still loved all of them. This is my third out of 4th of Silvia Moreno Garcia. Can't 100% pin down why. I think I didn't love the characters as much as I wanted to, and I wasn't rooting for them as much as I think I was in Mexican Gothic. Just because comparison is a thing that happens sometimes. If I wasn't comparing this to something like Mexican Gothic, I think I probably would be, I don't know if I'd be more positive, but I think that I would feel maybe a little bit different about it. But that's not the world we live in, that's not the context in which I was reading this. We have these characters, we have a vampire, we have a human boy, we have them joining forces to try and escape from some bad stuff that's going on in Mexico City. I always love Silvia Moreno Garcia's sense of space and sense of characters' personal space. I think that's just something that she writes really well, and creating environments is excellent. And in this kind of, she describes it as a neon noir at one point. I think that works really well. Overall, I think that I might have enjoyed this a bit more by audiobook. That was what I was saying to Angela. I think that it just didn't quite hit the spot for me, but I kind of knew that going in. It might be worth a reread. We'll see how I feel. Not my favourite of all of these things that I have read. And now I need the book that you're sat on. Thank you. And then I have just reached the end of part 1. I honestly could have kept reading. I kind of wanted to, but it was getting a bit late, and I thought, this is a good stopping point. I want to stop at the end of part 1. We'll keep going tomorrow. If you don't know, this is a reimagining of Frankenstein, written from the perspective of his wife Elizabeth, who in this story is his companion, friend as a child. She comes from a very neglectful home, and then decides she has to make Victor love her the most so she can never be taken away from the new home that she has found. Victor is a somewhat troubled boy, shall we say, understatement of the century, and yeah, this stuff's going down. This is one of those books where I have absolutely no idea how it would feel reading it, having no context for Frankenstein. I don't know if anyone in the world is that person, but if that's you and you have no idea what Frankenstein means, you have no pop culture references for Frankenstein, this would be probably much more interesting, probably maybe more spooky read, but I do think this manages to capture a lot of the scare even with that background knowledge, so I like that a lot. I like the way it's written. Kirsten White's writing is a little bit hit or miss for me. This is definitely a hit. I enjoy the way this book works. It is a good time. So I'm going to finish that and then I will be back to tell you about the end of that, and then we've got four more books left on this list. I did want to save Dark Descent until the end of the month, but it wasn't how it worked out, so there we go. Right, I shall speak to you next. Hello, it is Monday the 18th of October. We're getting ever closer towards the end of the month, and I'm on track, and that's really all I can ask for of myself. I did take a bit of a break over the weekend. We had people over, but before I did that, I did actually finish Dark Descent of Elizabeth Frankenstein. I just didn't vlog about it. So this is actually split into 3 parts. I read the second and third part. I think it's 3 parts. Can't quite remember. I read the rest of it the next day after I vlogged, whenever it was. There's been time passed between these 2 things. I really enjoyed this book. I think I was much more sympathetic to Elizabeth this time round than I was the first time round. That's not saying I wasn't sympathetic towards her the first time round, but just even more so, which I think is another one of the reasons I really love rereading books with complicated morals involved, because I think it does give you an opportunity to see different sides to things. And yeah, I really enjoyed this book. I don't know how I feel about the ending, which I won't talk about here because this isn't really the place for spoilers like that. How I feel about happy endings, which is, I'm very strongly in preference towards them, and how I feel about whether they should always happen. There's stuff like that going round and round in my brain at the moment. Suffice to say, I enjoyed this as much as I enjoyed it the first time I read it, and possibly the second time I read it. I think it's well written, I think it's well crafted, I think that it's interesting, and it's really prompted me to remember that I really, really should pick up original Frankenstein at some point. This week I'm planning on reading Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires. I haven't looked really to see if this fits into different parts, but it looks like it does. And House of Hollow. So those 2 are my ones I'm going for this week. And then, last but not least, I just want to take a moment and appreciate this mug that Katie has made for me. We made this when we were in Norfolk, but we've only just met up with the friends with whom we did pottery making to exchange what we'd done. And this is not merch, but oh my goodness, imagine if it was. Also, this is the largest mug I've ever owned. You'll be seeing this in videos from now on, I'm sure. Luna is looking at me, my work laptop is looking at me. I should probably get on with my day. Hello, welcome back again, or you've just kept watching, so it's not really welcome back. It is now Friday the 22nd of October. I took a little bit of a break. I've actually been in the office this week, which has been very weird. I haven't been back since March of 2020. Very odd. So I have been doing a bit of reading on buses and doing things. I've mostly been focusing on the audiobook of Vita Nostra, but I have read some of the planned reading I've done. I finished the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires by Grady Hendrix. I loved this. Thank you to whoever it was posted in my TBR video about content warnings. I would pass on that warning to you. There was some very brutal stuff in this book. Suffice to say, I don't want to bring them all up here, but I will link to the story graph where you can find them. But I did think this was incredibly well written. I found it deeply disturbing in a lot of ways that weren't necessarily the more overtly horror elements of the book, which I think was definitely the intent. The creepiest bits of horror films are not always the monsters. Often it's the bits before and around the monsters, which is what I like to get in a book as well. And the silencing of women is just a really powerful thing in this story, and yeah, this is a book that's going to stick with me, and I will probably reread it, which I wasn't necessarily expecting, and now I kind of do want to go and pick up My Best Friend's Exorcism. Maybe next time I'm in town. I was completely hooked by this, although at one point something not horrifying in a horror sense, but that just shook me to my core happens, and I just went, oh no, and I had to put the book down for a full 12 hours. I couldn't pick it up because I was so just upset. It was good. And then I am at chapter 11, 125 or so pages into House of Hollow by Crystal Sutherland. There we go. It's hooked me much less than Southern Book Club's Guide, but it is still eerie and interesting. I think potentially I'm a little bit done with YA that has just 3 absolutely beautiful sisters in the story, and the idea is, they have this otherworldly beauty, and I'm kind of over the idea of beauty standards anyway. I appreciate it in fiction, but just, it's a pet peeve of mine that's sticking with me at the moment, and that's, I think, the thing that's stopping me loving this completely. But I do still really like it, and I understand why the author's done that. I don't think that the author's like, yes, I think the only beautiful people are thin white people. Yes, great. I think it's different than that. Yeah, it's suitably creepy. I have a feeling I know where it's going, which is possibly why I'm less keen to read the rest of it, because in my head I've already finished the book. I expect it will therefore be different from what I think. But yeah, I'm enjoying it. I'm going to keep going. I think this is going to end up being one of those books that, in hindsight, I really enjoy. I think at the moment, not enough has been revealed that I'm like, okay, great, I'm in, let's go. But simultaneously, it's leaving enough plot threads around that I'm kind of like, we get it. There's mystery, right? So yeah, we'll see how we go. I always like a book with a character who's a fashion designer in it as well, because that's just something that's always fun to read. So I'm not saying I'm not enjoying it, but when you compare the two, one has been much more impactful so far. Me and my giant mug are going to go start work. I'm also going to try and find the dog, who I suspect may be eating my shoes downstairs in an effort to make me not leave. I'm not leaving. I'm not planning on going anywhere. But she still chews my shoes to try and stop me going. So with that in mind, I shall see you when I finished House of Hollow, which may, at this rate, be next week. Who knows? We're getting close to the end now, though. Hi! It's later in the day. I have finished House of Hollow. Ended up very much liking it. I think it's going to be one that I will take a little bit of time to process and talk about it more at the end. Same with Southern Book Club, actually. I'm a bit torn on this one. I overall had a really good time reading it. Like, this is a good book, I would say. And as someone who doesn't read a lot of YA horror, I don't have a huge amount to compare it to, although I have just filmed my review for Other Words for Smoke, and that I would draw some comparisons there. It almost explained too much. Maybe it explained too much. Maybe it was just enough. Oh, it's so hard to tell. I think it's one that will stick with me. I certainly loved some of the visuals I got from this book. They are very grisly, but simultaneously not gory, but it's like creepy stuff happening. It reminded me of a lot of horror visuals, which I appreciated. It was a little bit predictable, but I don't think that it failed in that. I think that it was fine that it was predictable. I think that there was enough other stuff happening that got drawn in that I didn't mind predicting the ending. I obviously won't talk about what that is here in case you don't predict it and you want to enjoy it. I was really intrigued by how it ended as well. I think it was good. I think I would recommend it. I don't think I would recommend it if you don't like reading from the perspective of a teenage girl. Although having said that, very nice to have a, especially younger sibling, interestingly, younger sister, female protagonist, who does not have a romance during this book. I really appreciated that, and it would have been so easy to throw one in, and often that is what happens, I guess. But I appreciated that this didn't do that, and this was much more about other stuff and other relationships happening. Yeah, a good time, a very much like adventure-y horror, I guess. Scary chase scene horror. Subgenres of subgenres is hard. I had a good time. That's what I'll say on that one. I'm going to take a bit of a pause. Hopefully not end up talking to you again on Friday. But I do have to finish Terciel and Elinor, which is the new book from Garth Nix, so I'm picking that one up, and Reaper at the Gates. Basically, my reading schedule is a little bit packed at the moment, and I need to finish those this week before I can pick up my last two books, which are behind me, which is Steeped in Gold and The Echo Wife. It is the 24-hour readathon this weekend, so I might use that time to get ahead so I can read these. But yeah, we're getting towards the end of the month. I've really enjoyed doing this, what's the word, like themed TBR kind of vlog. You want me to move the camera so they can see how cute you are? Yeah. So all I was going to say is that I'm very much enjoying this. It's good, and I'll speak to you when I next speak to you. Good morning. It is the 26th of October. It's Tuesday. I've got a fair amount left of the month, maybe. Really not if I want to get this vlog out on Halloween. I'm not feeling so hot. It's not anything panini related. I think I've just both picked up a cold and I had my flu jab yesterday, so I'm just feeling a bit under the weather. I did some reading sprints with a few wonderful bookish people over on Amber's channel on Saturday, and I got a lot of reading done. Not all of it was spooky book reading, but I did read half of The Echo Wife, and I have since finished it. I finished it yesterday. I absolutely loved this. I knew I was going to. There was a part of me who wasn't sure if I would enjoy the premise, because I thought it was going to be very pitting two women against each other. That's not exactly what it is. It's so good. It's sort of made me think I would probably like thrillers, and I just do not have the brain space to open myself up to a whole other genre at the moment. But I absolutely love this. I think it's fantastic. If you are looking for a kind of eerie book that looks into kind of some of the ethics of cloning, that really takes themes of men who try and shape women in various different ways and shape some forms. Bad men. I think this, it just blew my mind. Everything about it blew my mind. And I think that I would like to film a dedicated review for it, but I don't want to swear myself to that because we know what I'm like. And I will definitely get to it in the fullness of time, because at some point I'm going to have to go back and do a catch-up of a bunch of overbooked stuff, which may be in a few months. So yes, loved it. And then I have read one chapter, because I was like, right, we need to start. I've read one chapter of Witches Steeped in Gold. It is not enough to form an opinion, but I am now reading it. And that is my focus at the moment. I'm going to finish that. And then this vlog can be edited and go up and all that good stuff. And by the time you're watching it, that will have happened. So fantastic. I hadn't really planned for Witches Steeped in Gold to be the last book on this spooky TBR, because it's probably the least intentionally spooky of them, but hey, we'll see how it goes. I'm enjoying it. I did also get Bookmail. This isn't super relevant, but I used to talk about Bookmails in vlogs a lot, and I thought it would be nice to bring that aspect back. Bone Chip's Wake arrived. Thank you so much to Orbit for sending this free copy through. I have actually already read this because I had a NetGalley copy, but I haven't filmed the review because I was waiting to see if I could have a physical copy so I could waft it at you and we could show what we're talking about and some of the stuff in here. I can't remember if I've ever talked about this on the channel, but I absolutely loved this. I thought it was a fantastic end to a trilogy. Didn't necessarily go where I was expecting, but I wasn't mad at it. Now I have the physical copy, I can also reread it more, so yay for binge reading that trilogy at some point in the future. The last thing I will leave you with while we finish this handy dandy vlog segment is that I have unintentionally been reading a heck of spooky stuff that just sort of happens to have fit the theme. So I read Terciel and Elinor, which is the new Garth Nix that's coming out. That's the prequel. All the Old Kingdom books are in a weird order. It follows Terciel and Elinor, who are Sabriel's parents. I thought it was okay. Prequels are always tricky because, like, what are you going to do about it? Especially in the Old Kingdom stuff, because the big bad is a little bit difficult to follow. And I think what I need to do at some point is do a chronological order reread of them, because I think that would probably help my brain a little bit get the hang of who is who and what they're doing. But I will probably do that by audiobook because most of them are Tim Curry, and I love myself. The other thing I read was... Come on, brain. Year of the Reaper. I keep calling it Reaper at the Gates. It's not that. Year of the Reaper, which comes out at some point fairly soon, I think. It might be either end of this year or early next year. That involved someone who can see ghosts. That's not the main hinge of the plot, but it featured ghosts, so it counts. There was nothing overtly wrong with it. Like, there was nothing where I was like, ugh, this is terrible. Ugh, this is annoying. Ugh, go away. It just felt a little bit... unfinished, not in the sense that the writing was scrappy or that anything was, like, bad. It just, there wasn't that much meat to its bones, I guess. And it might be the kind of thing where on a reread I would feel differently, but to be honest, I don't think I'm planning on rereading it anytime soon, but I will try and arrange some thoughts into a written review at some point. I'm going to go because I need to go log into work and attempt to work with this happening, because you know that I'm not quite ill enough to not work, but I'm ill enough that it'll bother me. And the dog's here, so I will definitely sign off. Hello! Hi, welcome to the 27th of October, and what I believe is going to be the final check-in for this vlog, because I've finished, it's underneath a pile of other things, I finished Witches Steeped in Gold. I have been very ill these last couple of days. I'm still not feeling 100%, and I'm pretty sure I've worn this jumper in every single vlog clip because it's my favourite autumn jumper. But that's by the by because I finished this. I actually very much enjoyed this. I would say not as much as a lot of the other stuff I've read. I think just mostly I'm a bit burned out on dual point of view YA, which this is, which is tricky, and I don't know if I'm ever going to be ready to go back into it. I've just read so much of it over the years. But as dual point of view YAs go, this is a very strong contender. I really liked the various different kinds of rebellion and double crossing that were happening in this. Very powerful. The magic system was cool and like interesting. Obviously the inspirations were also very fascinating. There's epic sprawling fantasy in here. There's minute interpersonal relationships here. I thought it was good. Was it particularly spooky? No. Was I expecting it to be particularly spooky? Also no. I had a good time with this. I don't know if it's something I will hang on to, mostly just because of where I'm at with the kind of YA that I enjoy at the moment. This isn't high up in that box, but I do think I will probably read the sequel, but probably from the library. That's where I'm at with this one. But yay, it was good. And I thought we would do kind of a close off sort of look back through all the things I've read, especially those things that I've now read, you know, about a month ago, and I would like to just sort of reminisce on those for a moment. I have very little time left on this memory card, so don't worry, I won't waffle for too long. I started off by reading A Dowry of Blood. I have got a review video up for this now because that worked out nicely. I very much enjoyed this. This is one of my favourite books for this time of year. It's a wonderfully spooky, gothic, dark, emotional, I would say somewhat emotionally draining, but in a really good way, cathartic vampire book. Yes. Oh, I don't know where I'm going to put these. These can just go here. Also read Small Favours. I'm so glad I finally got to it. I'm excited it can now come and sit by House of Hollow. No, that's later. House of Salt and Sorrows. And be happy together. I thought this was exceptionally creepy, wonderful. Wasn't 100% sold on the ending. I particularly like the first half of this book, Summer into Autumn, is very, very powerful. There are some really stressful moments in it. Enjoyed it a lot, yes. Then I buddy read Certain Dark Things with Angela. It was a loose buddy read. We had a wonderful time. This isn't my favourite Sylvia Marina Garcia, but I did think it was very enjoyable, and if you were looking for a different take on vampires, or a different kind of more of an adventure vampire novel noir kind of thing, modern noir, I would say go for this, yes. Dark Descent of Elizabeth Frankenstein is another old favourite. I was slightly worried I wouldn't enjoy this time around because I have started to kind of fall out of love with the stuff Kirsten White is writing at the moment, but I still really enjoy this. I think it's a really good relook. I think this is a really powerful look at that Frankenstein story from a different perspective, and every time I've read this I've picked up something different from it. So yes, definitely one I will continue to reread at this time of year. Then I read the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires. This is probably the most overtly adult horror of this list. I thought this was fantastic. I was messaging Justine throughout just and then this happened. What? No! A book that filled me with just sheer despair, and the horrifying moments are genuinely very horrifying. Another interesting take on vampires, I would say. But I thoroughly enjoyed this. I thought it was fantastic, and I will probably try and pick up My Best Friend's Exorcism at some point. Another actual horror book, House of Hollow. This is YA horror. I thought that this hit the spot for me. I think, again, similar to Small Favours, the ending wasn't exactly what I wanted, but I did overall really enjoy the reading experience. It creates a really good atmosphere. It's spooky, it's creepy. I could do without otherworldly beautiful YA heroines, but maybe that's a horror thing that I just have to get used to. And then I'll touch very briefly, because I've only just talked about them, The Echo Wife and Witch is Steeped in Gold. The Echo Wife, absolutely fantastic. Witch is Steeped in Gold, really good, not particularly spooky, but we knew that going in. Right, I do only have a minute and a half left, so we're going to go fast. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this. Let me know what you've been reading this season. Have you been picking up anything particularly thematic? Happy Halloween. If you haven't already, please do subscribe. It makes me feel loved and appreciated. This has been a month in the making. I hope you've enjoyed it. Follow me on social media. Come hang out on Discord. We have a wonderful time there talking about books. That's all from me, and I will see you in the next one. There's gonna be some bloopers now. So yes, these... Come on now. Let's cooperate. She's so cute. I can't deal with it. You're going to stand right next to the microphone and be a bean, aren't you? No, Luna, come on. She wants to go sit under my desk. I don't know why. It's not comfortable there. We've got limited time on the memory card, honey. Sucks to you, memory card. We made it to the end. Ha!